I'll share my screen. Right. Is the voice clear now?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the last commentary on the chapter Science of Living, which we have been busy with. The question Ila has raised is a very significant question last time, and I have pulled out about 20 different pieces of texts which I first need to study, uh, because as I said last time, it has many layers and it will take a lot of time because it's an existential question. So I need some time with it, and maybe then we can uh, delve into it at some point. And I think I mean, to offer something around the problem of evil, it would be quite interesting. But first, we have to develop our own understanding. Uh, some understanding is there, but really applying it to all these crude incidents, rape, incest, murder, all these things, the answer has to be applicable to everything. So that needs some work. So that's just, I wanted to put it out there. Okay. This is the passage which was in The Science of Living, where the mother.
May I say
Yeah,
something?
sorry. Yeah, please.
On the same thing, when over the weekend I was reading The Mother, like we discussed in Life Divine. So the chapter 4, the first few lines did talk about the Asuric powers, which are which talk about this the three forces: power, wealth, and sex, that have the strongest attraction for the human ego, and the asura, and are most generally misheld and misused by those who retain them. The seekers or keepers of wealth are often more possessed rather than its possessors. This is talking about wealth, but I also took it to, it goes on further. This talks much about money and wealth, but if you there was some interpretation, because it does talk about the Asuric
Yeah,
influence on the
yeah. Of course, the question arises, who made the Asura? And if the divine made the Asura, why did the divine make the Asura? Why do we have to suffer? Why, is the divine a torturer? Is the divine a pervert? So all these questions do arise. So that's why I'm saying we need much more work
no.
before we
We are talking
go
about the
into.
divine suffering, or we are talking about this crude level
No,
of.
the problem of evil. Why does evil exist? Why is it, if divine is there, if everything is divine, then how come people get away with murder? Why do people have these tendencies in the first place to rape, to murder, even children, to rape kids, or even animals? So, these are very serious questions. And no matter how much faith you have, this is very disturbing when you see all this happening. So you can't just have a blind faith in the sense that you say, no, 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 I believe. You may believe internally, but I think in this path, especially in the path of integral yoga, it's very important for us to resolve these contradictions for ourselves, first of all. Can they be resolved? I have faith that Sri Aurobindo has resolved them, but I don't have the knowledge. I would like to inculcate the knowledge, and I would like to then apply it to each and every painful, shocking situation and see whether it stands. My synthesis, does it stand the test of reality that we face every day? So that work requires a lot of inner work, a lot of silence, a lot of intellectual clarity at every level it needs, and also to trace these things in oneself. So I'm not ready for it as
Yeah,
yet.
you're right. I mean, you may have faith, you may have a certain belief in the understanding that somewhere out there would be probably an answer to that. But when you hear and read and see, you're not able to comprehend to that level uh, its existence and the crudeness of it. And yeah,
Yeah, I remember there was one workshop where I was speaking about how the soul chooses its destiny and everything happens for good and blah, blah, blah. And one participant who had recently lost her child, unborn baby or a newborn baby, she asked me, what did that child do? Why did that child choose? I had no answer, absolutely no answer. So it's easy to spout jargon, but unless we resolve all these things, we'll be doing a disservice to Sri Aurobindo. So, so thanks to Ila's question, it has confronted me with lots of things, and I need to spend time with it before I can say anything.
yeah, we'll wait. We'll also want to work on it.
Yeah, I can share the links with you if you want to, whatever I've found, the links which I thought would be useful to read. If anybody is interested, I can share them. Uh, you
Yeah.
can go through them yourself. Okay, so coming back to more accessible and simpler things, uh, here we are. This passage, the vital being in us is the seat of impulses and desires, of enthusiasm and violence, of dynamic energy and desperate depression, of passions and revolt. It can set in motion everything, build up and realize. It can also destroy and mar everything. It seems to be, in the human being, the most difficult part to frame. It is a long labor requiring great patience, and it demands a perfect sincerity. For without sincerity, one will deceive oneself from the very first step, and all endeavor for progress will go in vain. So there's no question attached to it. This is from Science of Living, but the mother comments on this. So Nishi, could you start? Could you read the whole response? Actually, the second para is very small, so just read through.
It is very difficult to find the borderland between a true need and a desire. The yogic ideal, of course, is never to have any need and therefore not to want anything. But this essay is written for all men of goodwill who try to know themselves and control themselves. And there we really face a problem which compels an extraordinary sincerity. For the very first way in which the vital meets life is through desire. And yet there are necessities. But how to know if things are really necessary, not desired? For that, you must observe yourself very, very attentively. And if there is anything in you which produces something like a small, intense vibration, then you may be sure that there lies a desire. For example, you say, this food is necessary for me. You believe, you imagine, you think that you need such and such a thing, and you will find the necessary means to obtain the thing. To know if it is a need or a desire, you must look at yourself very closely and ask yourself, what will happen if I cannot get the thing? Then, if immediately the answer is, oh, it will be very bad, you may be sure that it is a matter of desire. It is the same for everything. For every problem you draw back, look at yourself and ask, let us see, am I going to have the thing? At that moment, something in you jumps up with joy. You may be certain there is desire. On the other hand, if something tells you, oh, I'm not going to get it, and you feel very depressed, and then again it is a desire. It is the vital. If the vital is not to deceive you, You must not only be very mindful, but your sincerity must also be almost miraculous. It is not to discourage you that I have used the word miraculous. On the contrary, it is in order to give you a greater aspiration for sincerity.
Yeah, thank you. So this is, of course, always the challenging question. How does one distinguish between a need and a desire? And she's saying this is not, this is for people like us, for all men of goodwill who try to know themselves and control themselves. The yogic ideal is something else. So in day-to-day life, this can be done. And she's given the key to it, how to check yourself, how to be very, very watchful and sincere. Would anybody like to say anything, share anything? Yes, Ila?
Yeah, I have a comment. My comment is basically that what is so bad about the desire part? I mean, she's not saying that the desire overtakes you, overwhelms you, and makes you a creature which you are not in control of. She's just saying that you have to know it's a desire. So I desire something, and yeah, I feel happy if I'm going to do it. So what? So it's okay. I mean, it's not, I mean, is it really going to destabilize me? I have enough sort of awareness of myself to know that, yeah, okay, I desire this, and yes, okay, it makes me happy. But does it mean that I will be euphoric and I will be out of control? Or if I don't get it, I will be depressed and want to kill myself? No, but I am happy and I am sad, and I don't see why it should matter. That it is, I mean, are we supposed to be in a state where nothing should matter to us? We should feel no desire, we should feel no happiness, no sadness, no nothing. I don't think that's the case, and that's what this is sounding like, that you should not feel any desire. I don't believe that. I mean, I think it's okay as long as you're aware that yes, this is a desire, and yes, okay, it makes me happy, or yes, okay, it makes me sad, and you don't spiral out of control. That's sort of what I feel. I don't know what her intention was, though.
Yeah, that I also cannot say with certainty. But it might be that we are reading that into it because, on the face of it, she's not saying that give up all desires, because she clearly makes the distinction between the yogic ideal, which she says is not never to have any need and therefore never to want anything. That is the yogic ideal. But she says this is not written for those people. In the yogic ideal, it would be just to be, whatever comes to you, you take it with equal equanimity, take uh, equal joy in everything, whether it is pain, whether it is pleasure, but your inner state is always joyous. That is the yogic ideal. But she's saying this is written for, people of goodwill who want to work on themselves. They want to know themselves. They want to control themselves. So it is like the attitude chart we do, that you try and distinguish, because it is all in the context of what she says, be conscious. Where is the impulsion coming from? So the moment it is a desire, the seat is the vital. So you know it's coming from the vital. When it is a need, then it comes from a deeper source in you, the psychic or something, or it can be a need of the body also. For example, hunger. The desire creates the difference between need and greed. It is the desire principle. Yes, I might decide to give in, but at least I don't fool myself or anybody else. Like, for example, I had a friend. Well, she's still a kind of friend, but anyway, she used to do this very much, confuse need and desire. And what she would say is that, uh, like, there was an instance, she was staying with me and she wanted to eat a mango, which was in the fridge. And for some reason, she must have told herself, no, it's a desire. I'm not going to eat it. Whatever. I don't know what went on to her. Then in the morning, she tells me, at night, the mango called me and I had to go and eat it. And she was telling me as if the mother told her to eat the mango. I got so fed up with her because every time she would do this, like she would decide I'm going to Pondicherry. and she would go to the station and then come back. No, no, the mother told me not to go today. Two, three times it happened. I said, I will see how the mother tells you. I am taking you to the station and I'm putting you into the train to Pondicherry. And I packed her off. I said, let me see how the mother tells you to come back. So she would always, until date, she does that. She would always cloud her desire and pass it off as mother is asking me to do this. So, one fools oneself. So it is just like, say I wanted to eat a mango and I ate it, finish. So it is on the same journey of developing sincerity, developing clarity, and then the choice is yours, which depends on the aim you have set for your life. If your aim is this, you will give in to desire, or you will, in fact, inculcate that desire if your aim. So, whenever I am depressed or my physical energy is low, and if I would meditate, I would even become lower, then I consciously give in to my vital desires because that helps me enhance the rajas and come out of that tamas. So, but this is something I have observed, and I've also gone through a phase where, oh no, all desires are bad. But that is not so. These are things, forces within you, and you have to choose, but you have to be clear this is this and that is that.
So the point is that you just have to be aware. It's not that
Yes,
it's good or bad. You just have to be aware of where what is coming from.
yeah. And good and bad is all in reference to the aim of your life or
Fine.
the aim you have set. The same thing can become bad, and the same thing can become. For me, meditating too much is bad. It doesn't do me good. So I'm not going to do it. Another person can meditate for hours. So
I was wondering, Didi, that the mother has spoken about how a desire looks like in terms of, very physical, small, intense vibration or the thoughts. So how does a need look like? So if I say that, what if I don't get this food? What would be the response for me to identify it as a need?
that's a very good question. I was also thinking that and reflecting on what happens. You see, the problem is, along with the vibration, she's also talked of sincerity. Now, the moment the mind steps in, and I have seen this with myself, if I'm trying to do this, I might feel that vibration. Yeah. But my mind might step in and say, oh no, I'm not feeling. It doesn't matter to me whether I get it or not. And then I will pass it off as need. So this inner sincerity is very, very important, which it does not come from the mind, which is a vibration you feel. So when there is a vibration of utmost peace, quietude, and when there is a confusion, then I try it out. Like, for example, I think I've spoken of this before. If I'm going in Mirambika, it used to happen a lot with me. From Mirambika, if I would go back home, I was living in GK, and there was one sister in GK1, one sister in GK2, my parents in GK2, and I didn't want to go home and cook. So I would think, where should I go for dinner out of the three houses? Yeah. Then I would visualize the house atmosphere and I would place myself there kinesthetically. And if I felt, oh, kind of a vibration inside, I would say, no, that's not the right place. Sometimes I would listen to it. Why right place? Maybe my consciousness will go down there. Logically, I didn't know, but this was the response. But sometimes my desire was to, no, no, I want to meet. And if I went, exactly that happened. My consciousness went down. So it is really, you have to play it with yourself and observe yourself and learn your own signals. For somebody, it might be a vibration. For somebody, it might be a sensation. Another person, it might be a sound they hear or a vision they see. Everybody can have a different experience. So this is only you will know. Trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more question. Like, question or something, what I'm confused. I still feel I'm not able to differentiate it is a voice of my vital, mental, or psychic because I think mind is so manipulative that it can very well easily uh, meditation also you can have a guided meditation, you just visualize things. So I really get confused which voice I'm hearing. Am I manipulating with myself? But that is, I'm struggling with.
So there are two answers to it which come to my mind. One is if you are on the path of becoming more and more conscious and understanding where does which voice come from, then it becomes important. Then you have to also read. You have to understand what is the vital, what is the mind, what are the different voices. Then you have to do some study also, not just self observing yourself, but also some intellectual study. But on the other hand, if your way is just to be a more cohesive, a more authentic person, it doesn't really matter uh, which voice is coming from where. What matters is what is the impact it has on you. Whether it makes you go because be less than who you instinctively feel you are, or it makes you feel, what you are, or higher, or more peaceful, or more happy, not that temporary happiness, or more focused, whatever is important to you. If it takes you towards that, even if it is technically not the psychic, not this, not that, doesn't matter. It is step by step we progress. बोलते ना आम खाओ पेड़ क्या बोलते आम खाओ वो गिनने से क्या मतलब है
गुठलियों
पेड़
को मत
गिनने से
गिनो.
क्या हाँ so that is another approach.
Yeah, true, very true.
Same thing. What I feel is that, um, like you said, the approach, and that's what when we started this discussion, and Ela put in that, how does it matter if I have a desire? So it's to each their own, because there are humans or families or places which completely live by that desire, and at the end, it's how do you want to live, what kind of life do you want to live, how conscious do you want to be, and how conscious you want to teach you teach your children to be living consciously. And I also feel that desire can actually mislead, because desire, it's we're not talking about our desire, but when desire goes out of control, desire, when we see desire all over the world, this whole economy is built upon desires, the way the world is functioning, even the environment, the earth is suffering because of our desires, the human desires. So
Yeah, but Pooja, remember Sri Aurobindo's quote, desire was the helper, desire is the bar. We haven't come to a state where we can give up desire, because if there is no desire we will stop progressing. It will be total tamas. We will fall into inertia. We haven't come to a point where the psychic is impelling us, where we have the higher consciousness impelling
yeah, so
us.
that's what I'm saying. So
So
where do we go to what consciousness level, each one now, everybody is at a different level. So
no, everybody is, but we ourselves, I myself, at every moment I am at a different level. I'm not a cohesive being as yet. I'm not. The aspiration might be mental. Even the mind doesn't remember 24 hours my aspiration. So I have to acknowledge that in myself. And again, for me, the best example, again, I come back to is the Sri Krishna and Arjun. I mean, he being so realized that Sri Krishna has chosen him, and yet he falls into that. So all of us do that. And you read letters between mother and the sadhaks, and the most realized sadhaks and Sri Aurobindo's letters, like Nirodha, and you will see what intense struggle with the vital they are going through. So it is not that we have just come on the path and we are now going to become, we are working on desires and other people are living from desires. All of us are living from desires, and it is needed.
no, all
It
of
is
us are
needed.
living, but then the more conscious you keep making yourself, so you
But
surely
consciousness doesn't mean we have to give up desires.
no,
You're
I'm not talking
equating
about
being
giving up
conscious
desires.
with,
I'm talking about identifying them.
yeah. So that too, you identify needs, you identify desires, but it doesn't mean being conscious is not equivalent to that I have to give up this, give up that, give up that. That, like you are saying, and Ela is also saying, and I'm also saying, it depends on your aim. So let's not equate becoming conscious with necessarily that I have to give up desires. Yes, I have to be aware not just of desires, of many other things, which she will tell us in other chapters. Okay. Sagarika, would you like to read this question? And the response is big, so read one para of it.
With this is the
Oh,
quote.
sorry, it's not a question, it's a quote
Yeah,
from
quote.
the.
Okay. Yes. Okay. With the collaboration of the vital, no realization seems impossible. No transformation impracticable. Impracticable. The science of living on education. Then mother says, it is this which is so wonderful. I believe the vital is very conscious of its power, and that is why it is important. It has that dynamic energy which makes no difficulty too difficult for it. But it must be on the right side. If it collaborates, everything is wonderful. But it is not easy to get from it this constant collaboration. It is a very good worker. It works very, very well, but in working, it seeks always its own satisfaction. It wants to get something from the work, all the pleasure that can be drawn from it, all the advantage that can be had. And when this satisfaction is not given for one reason or another, there may be many reasons. It is not happy, not at all happy. That's not fair. I work and I am given nothing in return. Then it sulks. It does not move. It keeps mum. And at times it says, I do not exist. Then all energy runs out from the body. You get tired, exhausted. You can no longer do anything. And all of a sudden, this becomes worse. For I must tell you that the mind is very friendly with the vital, not the reasoning mind, but the physical mind is very, very friendly with the vital. So, as soon as the vital begins to say, I have nothing to do with that, I have been badly treated, I won't have anything to do with it, the mind naturally comes in to encouraging it, to explain, give good reason, and it is the same old story. Life is not worth living. People are truly disgusting, and all circumstances are against me. It is better to leave it all, and so on. This happens very often, but at times there is a little glimmer of reason somewhere which tells you, ah, enough of this comedy.
Do we need to discuss or shall we go on reading?
I think we can read on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ila, do you want to read? Uh,
It's quite
yeah,
funny.
till here, this para.
Yeah, I find this very amusing actually.
Mm.
But if this becomes very strong and you do not react in time, then you fall into despair. Really, this life is not for people like me. I would be happier elsewhere in heaven, where everybody is very nice and one can do whatever one wants, etc. Whence paradisic conceptions, indeed, I think it is these two accomplices, the mind and the vital, who have invented paradise. For life, existence does not conform to your desires. You begin to lament, oh, I've had enough of it. This world is so miserable and deceitful, I want to die. And then there is a moment when the situation becomes serious. Discouragement changes into revolt and depression into dissatisfaction. I speak of people
Go
who,
slow, go slow, go slow.
sorry. It's quite interesting actually because it's like
I know,
a
I understand why you are reading fast.
comedy, it's like
Yeah.
a play. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay, so I'll go back to for if life existence does not conform to your desires, you begin to lament. oh, I've had enough of it. This world is miserable and deceitful. I want to die. Then there is a moment when the situation becomes serious. Discouragement changes into revolt and depression into dissatisfaction. I speak of people who are rather ill natured. There are people who are ill natured, it is not their fault. And there are people who are good natured, it is not their fault either. But
Oh
people are like
Lord.
that. It's really amusing, you know. So those who are ill-natured get angry, revolt, want to break and pull down everything. You will see they do not do what I want, they will be punished. Then this becomes a little more serious because the mind is always there to serve as the accomplice and it begins to have wonderful ideas of revenge. From discouragement, you do one kind of stupid thing, from wickedness, you do another. The stupidities of discouragement concern you personally, while the stupidities of wickedness concern others. And sometimes these latter stupidities are very serious. If you have a little goodwill, it is better at the time when such fits seize you to make it a rule not to stir, telling yourself, I am not going to move, I shall wait for the storm to pass. For in a few moments, one can destroy or ruin months of regular effort. But here I give you a
Okay.
consolation.
Okay. That we'll see later. Wonderful, isn't it?
It is
I
lovely.
mean,
Absolutely
yeah.
true. Absolutely true. You know, if you just let your mind be your accomplice, you're dead. You know, you really got to, watch those two all the time. They're constantly, making you get into all kinds of soups. The best thing to do is just shut up and sit still. Let it pass, you know. I think it's very smart, very, very good advice, actually.
She is, in a way, touched upon what we want to, your question in a little way. Sometimes out of the stupidities born out of wickedness concern others, and they are very serious. So the source is the vital, and mind, this partnership, very deadly. Mhm. Anybody else wants to ask, comment?
I feel what she's saying here is so true with each one of us, and maybe what we were discussing again about the vital desires and everything. We may not
Mm,
get to this level, but there are people, and I have seen and interacted with some people who probably are not aware. And I am like, again, what mother says here, I'm not saying it is their fault. It's neither anybody's fault, but somehow the circumstances of their lives, like, take for example, if a parent, for whatever need that they are trying to protect for themselves, they are
mm,
indulging in giving a toy every day to their child. Now,
mm,
they are not teaching a child any kind of conscious control, or forget about conscious control. They're not even teaching the child how to distinguish between, the child has no need. He's just desiring something, and where does it lead him? And then, if it is
mm,
not helped at the right time, or the discerning is not given, then there are tantrums, and then this may seem very small to us because
yeah.
we feel that this
Although,
child will
mm,
outgrow it. But
yeah.
in my parenting experience, with when I have worked with people and interacted, this can really become very bad even for the child's future, because these are the things. And then after a point, when the child becomes big, the parent will scold the child, whereas the child was never at fault. Then
Mm,
the parent will say something negative to the child, and then there is a certain uh, disbalance, or a dissatisfaction, and ununderstanding of in the child's system, inside.
yeah.
So
It is true that all that the mother is writing is very applicable to how we deal with children, etc. But I would say let's take a step back because, as I understand, the first point of application is to oneself and to observe these movements in oneself before one observes it in others. How do I, when is it that my vital sulks? When is it that my vital and the physical mind collaborate? And then what happens to me? When is it that I get into such a mood? It's not fair. I'm given nothing in return. I'm not acknowledged. I'm not appreciated. My work is not uh, considered important enough, other people are given more importance, and then how all the energy goes, the depression sets in, negative thoughts set in, and you want to take the revenge. Might not be murdering or anything, but you do want, in your thoughts, you kind of really do murder the person, you murder the goodwill, you murder the, at least I experience it. I mean, I've experienced it very often, and even till this date I experience these movements. And I mean, it was so often, I would say, if I would be very upset earlier, this was earlier, uh, I would feel, ki, okay, let me die, then they will miss me, and then they will know how important I was. I wish I would just die. I mean, I have experienced all this, all these thoughts come into you. And even today, I see that it is very, very difficult. The moment something does not go according to you, somebody speaks in a way you feel is they're not respecting you, they're not loving you, they're not giving you attention. Immediately the vital is, oh, they are like this, they are like that, I'm like this. Immediately it jumps up. So the vital does not like being, neglected. It has to be the center of the universe, and that is its character. And it is so in all of us even today. So before we think of the parents or the children or other people, although it does help to think of that also and to apply, but most important is to notice these movements in oneself. Because if one does not notice them in oneself, it will be very difficult to do anything about it. Then it will be only from the mind that you're working, not from your consciousness.
Just say the
So
first paragraph,
He
please.
must have said this for for the teachers, no?
no,
Most.
no, no, no. Hello. She said it is for all men of goodwill
Oh,
who
I
try to
know
know
what I'm trying
themselves
to
and
say.
control
No,
themselves.
you're getting me wrong here. When I say about the parents, this is what these are the examples that I'm giving. That each one of
I
us
know, I know, I know. You gave the
follow.
example of
Yeah, I
the
gave it,
parent. I'm
and
saying
I'm saying
in
that
the
even here, when she's speaking of education, it would be mostly when she was answering these commentaries. Was it because
no, to all sadhaks, not just to teachers, because mother used to hold her classes generally in the playground. So something she would take up on Wednesdays, something else on Thursdays, etc., etc. So there will be all kinds of sadhaks. Yes, quite a few sadhaks were teachers, but they were not only teachers. See, even teaching for in Sri Aurobindo Ashram and in the integral field, teaching is not to become a teacher. Teaching is the way of your sadhana. And the mother made it very clear that when she sent somebody to work in the school, it was not because they were more evolved. It was because they needed to evolve. That's why she was sending them to the school, so that by teaching, they could evolve their nature. It is not how to teach children and what to do with the children. If you read all the conversations of the mother, hardly ever she says anything which you have to apply to others. It is always what you have to apply to yourself.
that's the
So
first quote of hers.
that is, if you keep your focus just on that, everything she says, just turn the mirror to yourself. How does this happen in me? Then you understand much faster, and from that understanding, yes, when you are teaching, you're working with children, answers will come, but
That's
they will
my
come from
whole
a deeper
learning
source.
has been since I started reading, that I have applied everything to myself, and that has given me greater insights about how the human psychology is. That is
Mhm.
how I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
even, uh, I started delving more and more into it, because this is
Mhm.
so much of psychology, which the
Yes, it is. But it is also, she says, very interesting thing. I mean, I found these two sentences very interesting. One, she says paradise. I think it is these two accomplices, the physical mind and the vital, which
yeah.
have invented paradise. See, at one blow, she kind of, I mean, there is a whole thing there about religion and heaven and hell and all that kind of a notions. And the other thing which she says, that not only ill-natured people, it is not their fault. The good nature also, it's not their fault. She does not say it's not to their credit. She says it's not their fault. So I think she doesn't use words just like mindlessly. So I think there is a something deep here, to have a good nature is also a fault. Very interesting.
Can we just see
He's just amazing.
the
Huh?
para? Can we see the para just before this? I want to
Ah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
beginning. This one, this one. Okay.
That's why she says when she talks about the vital education, she says of all the domains, vital education is the most important and least taken up because vital is the source of energy. If vital does not collaborate, we can do nothing, nothing effective in life, nothing constructive in life.
So
So vital doesn't have to be suppressed, it has to be made a collaborator.
I was going to say that actually because the sort of residual impression one has is that the vital is this very naughty child who's like completely
Yeah,
impossible
yeah,
to sort of
yeah.
control and manage, etc. But I think what she's actually saying is that it is actually something that is the essence of your being. So you just figure out how to work with it. It's like, so you have a disability, so you figure out how to work with the disability and then make the best
Yeah,
use.
it has a constructive side and a destructive side.
Yeah.
And
So
because it has so much energy,
yes,
it can be a very powerful destroyer. But it can also be like she
powerful
says, with
creator. Yeah.
collaboration of the vital, no realization seems impossible. No realize. You can achieve anything in life if the vital collaborates with you.
So I think that is a very good aspiration to have, and that is to
Hmm.
always want to collaborate with the vital. So I think
No, not collaborate with the vital. To make the vital your collaborator. There is a difference. If you say collaborate with the vital, vital will lead you crazy.
correct, you're right. The other
It's
way.
the,
So it's to
it's the
make the
other
vital
way.
collaborate
Hmm.
with you. Yes, but that's a really good
Yes.
aspiration to have.
Hmm.
That
Yes,
that's
indeed.
a good thing to frame, to keep in one's mind so that you can say, okay, in my power, stay within me,
Yes.
Also, because people use their vital in, I mean, all of us, when I'm saying people, all of us, we all sometimes
Just no, no, no.
say that,
Puja, for you, I'm specially going to say, always say I use it.
okay.
Don't say people, parents, children, anybody. Just
So,
use the word I.
all right, when I use it, it's mostly like maybe it's my nature. I can't change my nature. So when we are all somewhere ever in that state that I'm just
Not
like,
we, I.
because I'm working and I never say no to myself. I always accept. That's why I never say that. I'm somebody who's really, really sincere in saying I'm not being pompous, egoistic, but it's my deepest sadhana that I have never said no to accepting anything deep down inside me. So yeah, so I'm not a part of that I. But what I'm saying is that I will not say that I don't want to change my nature, but there is forever we've heard that things about nature doesn't change. That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, that she takes up in that chapter, Vital Education. I'm sure you have read it, where she takes up this very notion that all of us have this notion that human nature cannot change. We are born with a certain nature and it cannot change. And that is what she tackles in that chapter. We'll come to it. Okay, Prerna, will you read just this much?
But here I give you a consolation. These cries are of less duration and
Crises.
these crises are of less duration and less dangerous in the case of those who have established a contact with their psychic being, sufficient to keep alive in them the flame of aspiration and the consciousness of the ideal to be realized. They can, with the help of this consciousness, deal with their vital as one deals with a child in revolt, with patience and perseverance, showing it the truth and light, enduring to convince it and awaken in it the goodwill which for a moment was veiled.
So the first method she has given is of refusing to do anything, understanding that there is this storm within me and I'm not going to move. I shall wait for the storm to pass. And then she says, I will give you a consolation. And she explains that these crises, they will pass. But it is, if you have established a contact with your psychic being and this flame of aspiration is there, and you are aware of the ideal you want to realize, or you remind yourself of the ideal you want to realize, then that will help you deal with the vital as you deal with a child in revolt. So you have to stop that mental chatter, the mind is going on, oh no, this person, because the mind can justify. And it might be that the other person has really behaved very badly with you. But instead of dwelling on that, what is important is what is it doing to me, to my consciousness? Where am I coming from in this moment? What is it establishing in me? The feelings it is creating in me. So to be able to deal with it, to do it. And again, it is not that you become a doormat, but first you have to acquire a certain poise in your being before you can take a more proactive stance to deal with, suppose the other person has really been unfair or whatever, and dispassionately you see that this is the case, you can get back to the other person only if there are these vibrations have been sorted out within yourself. Otherwise, the disharmony continues. And it becomes that person's vital, my vital, that person's vital, my vital. So, goodwill, goodwill. Somewhere else, she has said that there is always a solution for people of goodwill. No matter what the conflict, there is always a solution to be found by people of goodwill. Goodwill is very important. Not goodwill in the sense of prestige, ki establish your goodwill. No, inside that there is goodwill, that feeling of goodwill.
Uh, Anuradhati,
Yeah,
what is the
yeah.
term of feeling of goodwill means? You do a good work or you
No, no, no.
then what is the
You feel kindly. Again, all these words have such misinterpretations. It's not a goody goody thing. It's not that you are a goody goody.
May
How
I
to how
share?
do I explain
When your
goodwill?
intentions are right, when your intentions are
I
very
was
in a
just going to use the
No,
word intent as well.
yeah, but right can be again a moral judgment. I feel I was right and that person is wrong. My
no,
intention was good, that person's intention was bad.
please suppose I have a conflict with someone, so my intention is not to prove me right or other person wrong. My intention is that uh, to have a good to have a relationship which is cohesive and harmony. So my intent, my goodwill is the bigger intention and purpose. That will I
Uh,
some.
yeah, okay,
I
could
sort
be.
I sort of agree because I think that goodwill is essentially it's exactly that, the willingness to be good. You want to be good, so you have a good intention, and when you have good intention and good feeling to something or someone, that's what goodwill is. When you have a good intention, a goodwill. So I agree with Prerna.
Yeah, because I think there is a flower by the name of goodwill. Okay, goodwill, the mother has described as this is a constructive way of feeling which leads straight to the future. One should keep goodwill and love constantly in their heart and let them pour out over. Goodwill is of modest appearance. It makes no noise but is ever ready to be useful. Goodwill for all and goodwill, mm, no noise. One should keep goodwill, goodwill, goodwill. Well, okay. Goodwill means wanting to do good always.
No, no, no. No, no, no. If you read the whole thing, it actually says that you have something which is called ignorant goodwill, then that goodwill is of no use. If you have goodwill which has an intention and therefore as then it's of use somewhere here. See, goodwill
What do
means
you mean by an ignorant goodwill and an
ah,
indolent energy? The
ah,
mother says goodwill means wanting to do good always.
ah.
No. So you are ignorant of what good is. Therefore, ignorant. So when you are ignorant of what good is, then it becomes an ignorant goodwill because you don't know what is good. But in itself, it is wanting to do. That's what I said. Now, the words have, every word has such an interpretation because we interpret good and bad very moralistically. And that is not uh, what it is referring to. So,
Ultimately,
Sagarika, hmm. Yeah, sorry, somebody's saying something.
I just said
Okay.
ultimately it is intention because if you want to do something, you intend to do something, then it is intending to be good.
It
So
is a kind of a feeling of benevolence and not a moralistic or anything, but it is really a goodness of heart. There is goodness of heart.
so therefore the word that everybody is using, which is the intention or the willingness to do something positive
Yeah,
and
intention can have a mental connotation, but this is really that your heart is filled with goodness. It is impossible for it to be evil or wicked or ugly. It's just filled with goodness. And
Can I
the
give an
will,
example if what I feel like if my relative is not feeling well and I'm helping, I'm taking care, my intention is to help her, but not it's I'm not trying to reduce matlab, to reduce the pain maybe or to comfort her, but not to extend her life or reduce her life. That is, I have a bigger purpose than just to have for a few more days or just so my goodwill, if I'm doing a self reflection, my goodwill come from a perspective that I'm not reflecting for seeing how other person behaved, but goodwill is coming from how I reacted, what are the things I made the choice. If suppose I'm doing a goodwill from, like, we all are meeting together, the good will be collaboration for the everyone's growth rather than just saying I'm right or my what I'm saying I'm convinced to that. So when the intention is bigger and has a bigger purpose, then it is. This is what I
yeah, it could be that. Uh, so, so there is one level is where your heart is just filled with goodness. There are people you meet who are just filled with goodness, for whom any evil, any negative, any ugly thought, ugly feeling is impossible. There are some people like that. And when they put it into an intention, the intention also will be good, whether the purpose is small or large, it would be good. But for some, it can be, I suppose, where the when the intention is larger than your personal self-interest, your ego. And personal self-interest would include also, it may not be my individual interest, it could be for my family, for my country. All these are levels, na? Some people think only of their country, they don't think of humanity, for example. So even there, although they're thinking large, but not large enough. So it kind of extends. Yeah, it's interesting to, if we start getting into each word, it forces us to see, okay, what do I understand? Where does this thing resonate with me? Whether it is here or here, and what feeling am I sensing? So good, Sagarika, that you asked this. And again, that's again something we can you get for us next time or share in the group? picture of the goodwill flower. There is a flower, na?
Yes,
And she's
I
written under that flower, she's written
okay.
various things
I
about it. Share
okay.
that with us in the group. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Preet,
But
can we see your
uh,
face at least?
Didi, goodwill can conflict with our vital. मतलब, so uh,
Yes. Yes.
oh
Till the vital is refined
yes.
or naturally has that tendency. See, one of the problems, the discussion we had earlier about desire, one is having our desires, my desire is this, my desire. But the other thing is that vital works on the principle of desire. And vital, by its nature, is not interested in a higher life. The mind is still more interested in a higher life because it works on the principle of idealism. The vital by nature is not interested in a higher life, and yet it holds all the energy to make the higher life possible. So that's why this bridging becomes very important. That how to infuse vital with the consciousness of goodwill, it is capable of it, but by its very nature, lives on like the mind lives on the principle of division. The vital is grasping. It's this. So that is the issue. The physical is on the principle of inertia, maintain status quo. Yeah, interesting. All these questions and sharings make it interesting. Nice to see you, Harpreet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening and um, realizing that, that like at first place when the mother has asked you to sit quiet, like I could never. I would always be a troublemaker, and I or not troublemaker as such, I would say, but I was more left. I'm still left oriented. I would still like to, halla bol sort of person. That thing is in me. And I acknowledge it. So that part, of the mother, I could not identify, but I did not let my mind give justifications for what I do and believe. I observed myself all these years till the time even halla bol comes from a very purest, um, uh, an integrated, if not integral self. That means all your other parts are collaborating with it. So I'm still, but most of the time, yes, I land into trouble because I speak and, for whatever thing. And then for the desire bit and need, also I was reflecting that how mother has explained it in the circumstances. And then when this whole goodwill thing came, it was very uh, it was I would say it also reminded me one of the things in my life where the arguments and the vital arguments was just not closing the whole debate, and the only thing then I surrendered was to goodwill, what mother calls in French as bonne volonté. And it's a small yellow flower with nice uh, they are not petals, perhaps sepals to hold it, or they are petals, I don't know. So I just try to make every statement through that, and then it brought some sort of at least peace, because otherwise it was just not coming. And then you realize that it is that howsoever good-willed you are, sometimes you might also be genuinely doing harm to other person without realizing वो ill है या wicked है या क्या है, because people are not able to take this. So you also have to be mindful of this, that what you're giving is from a complete surrender and not as a mental this thing, because if you give because I this has happened with me when I've used these constructs in my professional life, like silence.
it has just offended people like anything, because it was a mental construct rather than you surrender to it and then you wash your words and your responses through this and then say, then only uh, it has it shows you a way. I will not say have an effect as desired by me or whatever, मतलब तब फिर वो लाइट की तरह काम करता है, अदरवाइज वो मेंटल कॉन्स्ट्रक्ट मतलब बड़ी मार खाई है, I would say.
Yes.
So
I
anyhow, I'm
suppose
just
so.
absorbing because for most of the things, I would be, I would not be. I mean, like I've traveled to different places with these concepts and not remained here only at the Gnostic Center or ashram. So I'm just finding it very relevant and also wondering that how I'm glad that it is occupying a space in my busy schedule. It's finding its own way. I just wish I can surrender to the entire of this discussion. So thank you, each one of you.
Thank you. Good. Next Monday, I have my doctor's appointment again. I will try to be back. So I'm not rescheduling it. I hope that I will be back in time. That's all I can say. I just hope that it will happen. Otherwise, I can pass on the link and the hosting rights, and somebody else can host it. That's also possible. You can
No,
start
we'll
it
find
off.
another time.
It's-
Another time, or we'll delay it by half an hour. It's okay.
Okay, fine.
Yes, it's better.
Right. Sweet Allison, Nishi has shared. It's the sweet Allison flower. Oh, it's that white flower. White, yeah.
They are, yeah, I mean, but
Maybe
they
they
are,
come in yellow also. Yeah.
yeah, because then it is the good mental aspect, I
Mental
believe.
goodwill.
The
Yellow would be
pink,
the mental
हाँ,
goodwill. Yeah.
I
Yes.
छोटा
did
सा होता है,
find this
star-shaped
picture. See
flower.
this.
Okay.
No, this is goodness. This is not bon volante. This
Hmm.
And this is
promotes with
goodness.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'll share bon
Okay.
volante. Don't worry.
Okay. Fine.
ठीक.
Thank you. Bye.
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 So last time we read this thing about the need and desire, and also about how the vital. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Yeah, so we read about need and desire and how the vital sulks when things are not according to it. And then the mother spoke about how, to refuse to act, etc. I don't know if we read this, but here I give you a consolation. Did we read this? I mean, she said about not to act.
But here we have done this.
We've done this?
Yes.
Okay, but people don't seem to remember. So shall we read it again?
I
But here I give you a
I
consolation.
don't think we read.
Okay, let's read it again. Doesn't matter. So this she is quoting again from Science of Living. These crises are of less duration and are less dangerous in the case of those who have established a contact with their psychic being, sufficient to keep alive in them the flame of aspiration and the consciousness of the ideal to be realized. They can, with the help of this consciousness, deal with their vital as one deals with a child in revolt, with patience and perseverance, showing it the truth and light, endeavoring to convince it and awaken in it the goodwill which for a moment was veiled. And then she explains. So, this is one consolation. Basically, she's saying that don't be disheartened that, with the vital revolt, and then I have to wait for it to become quiet. So she says that if you have established some contact with your psychic being and your aspiration, the flame of aspiration and the consciousness of the ideal, if you recall that, you bring it in forefront, and then you kind of remind the vital of that and wait for the goodwill to awaken. So that is one. And then she's talking about another consolation. So, Prerna, will you read this, please, this passage?
Yeah. And the last consolation. For those who are truly sincere, truly good willed, all these fits can be changed into a means of progress. Each time that you have an attack of this kind, a sort of storm, you can change the crisis into a new progress, into one more step towards the goal. If precisely you have the necessary sincerity to look straight in the face within you at the cause of the fit, the wrong you have done, the wrong you have thought, the wrong you have felt. If you see the weakness, the violence, or the vanity, for I got to tell you that the vital is much more full of vanity than the mind. If you look at all that full in the face, and if you recognize honestly and sincerely that what has happened is due to your fault, then you are able to put a red hot iron as it were on affected spot. You can purify the weakness and turn it into a new consciousness, and you find after the storm that you have grown a little more. You have truly made a progress. Progress may be
Okay. No, let's stop here. Let's stop here and discuss this. Yeah. Yes. Any thoughts? Any questions?
Well, I just think that this is not, I, I mean, I think it's said more simply than it actually, um, I think it's more difficult to do than the way it's being put. Like, oh, you can look at it full in the face and then, put it like a red hot poker on that spot. There's no, there's no I mean, there's no method to how one should do this. And it sounds extreme to me. It sounds extremely difficult that you can, look at yourself with such transparency and say, oh, this is it, and whack yourself and, then say, ah, I've got it and move on. To me, it sounds,
Difficulty, nobody doubts. The whole journey of self-development is very difficult.
but
So
this,
it is only if you want to, but the method is also there, because the method is this, that each time you have an attack like this, you with a, so first she has talked about reviving that or reconnecting to your deepest consciousness, your ideal and all, and then to look with sincerity not at the other person. Normally what happens when these storms are there, we are busy analyzing what the other person did wrong, how they should not have spoken, how you were in the right. So that's why she says the vanity and all that. So the thing is to turn the spotlight on oneself. That itself is the difficult part. To turn the spotlight on oneself and to analyze what is it that I did wrong in this situation? What is it that I thought which was not in harmony with my ideal? Wrong doesn't mean wrong to the other person, not in harmony with your ideal of progress, whatever you have said as that. And if you look at it in the face and you take responsibility for it, that it has happened due to your fault. So again, it doesn't mean that only you are responsible, but it is not my business to analyze the other person if I'm on the path of change, because I can never change the other person. So this is only when the vital, to bring the vital to a certain calm, a place of quietude, that this method is there. Once the vital is calm, you can analyze mentally and then. But as long as your emotions are all haywire, it becomes difficult to have any objective stance and to then find a solution which can be harmonious and which can be in a positive confrontation if need be with the other person. Yes, Ila.
So I think that was actually the point that I was making is just was really that is that when your vital is disturbed, okay, and when you're not feeling grounded and sane and rational and whatever, then to look honestly and directly and say, oh, this is my fault and this is what, because this much is because of me. I don't think that's easy for most people, because in any case you're in turmoil. Right. It's not that the event has passed and many months later you're looking back and dispassionately you're able to see things. So to look at yourself when you're in turmoil, I think, I mean, personally speaking, I don't think I could ever do it. I can only do it, if at all, with some. I mean, I can only do the other way she mentioned, which is just wait, let it pass, let it go, and then when it's done, then sit and look. I think this is for very evolved people. I mean, that's my sense of
Um,
it.
I would like to share here that just the paragraph before she was saying that you have to wait, let the storm pass. So we are not. She's not asking us to look at it in turmoil. That's what I get, and I want to share here that in the peaceful parenting things that I do with. I have learned and I help people. This is the exact same thing that we step back. Supposing I've had a argument with my child and I've acted out of proportion, and then I step back and I reflect on whatever my thing is, because at the end, it's not about who is right or wrong. It's about my behavior is my own responsibility, and I may have been triggered by something. So these are the things that we, as in peaceful parenting, we talk about, that the parent steps back, and when you step back, you are looking at yourself, not whacking yourself as to, oh, I did this wrong, but with compassion, with self compassion, and you look at yourself and you say, okay, I messed up, and then you realize that we could have done this better. You could have done, the child and the parent could have done this better, and the parent is the lead, so it's the parent's responsibility. And then you kind of, what she says, that you the wrong you have done, and you look at where you've gone wrong, and you kind of work towards working on your triggers, and you apologize and reconnect. So that's how I link it to the work that I do.
I think that may be so, but my point was just that I think there are two methods that she's talking of which the one that, as I said, applies to me is the former and not the latter. I would find this hard.
Yeah, it is hard. There's no doubt about it. It is hard.
Very hard.
And for each person, it comes gradually. You may reach here by various other methods, even before, even to be quiet when you are just dying to give it back to the other person and waiting for the storm to pass. That itself is also very hard, because everything in you is crying out that this is unfair and you want to hit back. And maybe if your mind is has the power to be sarcastic and all. Lots of very witty and very powerful statements are coming into your mind, which you can throw at the other person, and the other person will be just, dumbstruck. But this is all about, if you're working on your vital, then she's explaining the nature of the vital, and that it doesn't help in that moment actually to uh, give in to the vital, because, like she said earlier, that the work of many days or months can get spoiled just in one moment because you say something. And ultimately it is, if you have set a conscious ideal of progress, then that is again and again we will come back to the power of the aim. What is your ideal? If that ideal is powerful enough for you to really want to become that person or be like that, then gradually you will see, as you keep sustaining and nurturing that aspiration, that from within, when something like this happens where you behave in a way which is not up to your own self respect and your own dignity, the focus shifts from the other to later on feeling, that you cannot respect yourself for the what you did, whatever the justification of the mind. But you feel, yes, I could have handled it better. And as that unease starts growing, it kind of feeds into the strength to be able to do this. And that unease comes from the psychic, because when the aspiration is nurtured, the psychic, this kind of behavior, which whatever is not in harmony with my own nobility, will pain me. And that pain is much more serious than the pain of somebody being nasty to me. So, anybody else wants to say or share or ask?
I think it was very clear reading this that it's a journey. And I think every time we pause and we look back and we become more conscious, I'm hoping that next time that the intensity is less and the time between the incident and the reflection is lesser.
Hmm. You see, this applies to all kinds of incidents. A story which the mother told is coming to my mind, which has nothing to do with becoming angry or upset, but
Hmm.
yet the vital is at play. It's the story about a realized person who has been away and who has kind of developed some siddhis and mastery. And he's gathered with his students, and they ask him, please show us something which is miraculous or something. So they are sitting around a dining table, or with the food and everything on it. And he says, okay, just remove the table and let the tablecloth and all the dishes be there, and just take the table away. And his disciples say, Master, if we take the table away, all the food and everything will fall down. He says, don't worry, just take the table away. And they take the table away, and the tablecloth is suspended in the air, and all the food, everything remains in place. And then suddenly he rushes out saying, woe to me, I have in a moment destroyed what I gained, because there's the vital impulse to show off and to get praise and be recognized took over. And then so it is even in that moment to be quiet. So it's not only in negative kind of thing, but even in moments where we are being praised and our vital jumps up and says, wow, I'm the best, and all that kind of a thing. So it can apply in any situation. Okay, let's continue. Ila, you want to take this passage, the quote and the explanation?
Okay. Uh, Progress may be slow, falls may be frequent, but if a courageous will is maintained, one is sure to triumph someday and see all difficulties melt and vanish before the radiant consciousness of truth. The science of living on education. If I lay stress here upon defects and difficulties, it is not to discourage you from making an effort, but to tell you that you must do things with the necessary courage and precisely not be disheartened because you are not successful at once. But if the aspiration is there in you, if the will is there in you, it is absolutely certain that sooner or later you will succeed. And I'm saying this for people who live in very ordinary circumstances, less favorable perhaps than yours, but who can, even so, learn to know themselves and conquer themselves, master themselves, control themselves. Therefore, if the conditions are favorable, you have a much greater chance of succeeding. One thing is always necessary, not to give up the game, for it is a great game, and the result is worth the trouble of playing it through.
Hmm. So that is clear. Yeah. So she acknowledges it is difficult, but she says, just keep at it. It's like you're building up the uh, psychological, spiritual muscle. Yeah. Okay. Nishi, do you want to take this next quote and the explanation?
Yes, Didi. Lastly, we must, by means of rational and clear seeing physical conditions,
Physical education.
Physical education make our body strong and supple so that it may become in the material world a fit instrument for the true true truth force which wills to manifest through us. Sorry, I'll just read this again. Lastly, we must, by means of a rational and clear seeing physical education, make our body strong and supple so that it may become in the material world a fit instrument for the truth force which wills to manifest through us. It is much easier to organize the body than the vital, for instance. But the mind and the vital, with the character and temperament they have, what they do not do with this poor slave of the body. After having ill-treated it, perhaps ruined it, it protests a little, falls ill a little. This is what the two accomplices say. What a beast is this body! It cannot follow us in our movement. Unhappily, the body obeys its masters, the mind and the vital blindly, without any discrimination. The mind comes along with the theories. You must not eat that, it'll harm you. You must not do that, it is bad. And if the mind is not wise and clear sighted, the poor body suffers the consequences of the orders it receives. I do not speak of the orders it receives from the vital. The mind, with its rigid principles, with the vital, with its excess and outbursts and passion, are quick to destroy the body's equilibrium and create a condition of fatigue, exhaustion, and illness.
I think now perhaps they've shifted to the Acha, haan, it is in Science of Living only that she mentions this. Okay, sorry, my mistake. Yes. Anything here to discuss, or it's quite
Sorry, so
clear?
this is not about physical, right?
It is. It is about the body and how the vital and the mind tyranny. Because in Science of Living, she has spoken about that's like an overview. Then she goes into
Okay.
detail into mental, vital, physical, but that is an overview of all the things we have to work on.
Okay.
So this all of us have experienced how the mind and the vital tyrannize the body, and many a times body's own innate capacity to heal itself, to know what is right for it, etc., is destroyed for most of us, unless you rebuild it painstakingly, but it is gone. Pooja, you can take the next two quotes and their explanations.
It must be freed from this tyranny. That can be done only through a constant union with the psychic center of the being, the science of living. That is evidently the cure of all ills. The body has a remarkable capacity of adaptation and endurance. It is fit to do so many more things than one can usually imagine. If instead of the ignorant and despotic master that govern it, it is ruled by the central truth of the being, one will be surprised at what it is capable of doing. During the last war, it was proved that the body was capable of enduring such suffering as is normally impossible to endure. You have surely read or heard these stories of war in which the body was made to suffer and endure terrible things. And it withstood all that. It proved that it had almost inexhaustible capacities of endurance. Some people happened to be under conditions that should have killed them. If they survived, it was because they had in them a very strong will to survive, and the body obeyed that will.
Yeah. So, anything to discuss here, or all clear?
Didi, will is located in which aspect? Is it about, it's not vital, it's not mental.
As far as I understand, it is in every part of the being. There is a mental will, there is a vital will, there is a psychic will, and the body also. So it expresses itself differently. So endurance, I mean, will is interlinked in endurance uh, in the physical, because endurance is different from just strength and stamina. It is the ability of the body to bear,
Yes.
and to last, to outlast. So that entails will. Of course, when it combines with the mental will or the psychic will, etc., then the effect becomes much greater. But as far as I understand, it is there in every part. Uh, this is a long one, okay. Sagarika, you can read the quotation and then after one para pause in case we want to discuss anything.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, now. In this sound and balanced life, a new harmony will manifest in the body, reflecting the harmony of the higher region, which will give it the perfect proportion and the ideal beauty of form. The science of living on education. That is the last stage. If you compare the human body as it now is with a higher ideal of beauty, obviously very few would pass the examination. In almost everyone, there is a sort of unbalance in the proportions. We are so accustomed to it that we do not notice it. But if we look from the standpoint of the higher beauty, it becomes visible. Very few bodies would bear comparison with perfect beauty. There are thousand reasons for this unbalance, but only one remedy to instill into the being this instinct, this sense of true beauty, a supreme beauty which will gradually act on the cells and make the body capable of expressing beauty. This is still a thing which is not known. The body is infinitely more plastic than you believe. You must have surely noticed, perhaps very vaguely, that those who live in an inner peace, in an inner beauty, a light, a perfect goodwill, have an expression which is not quite the same as of people who live in bad thoughts, in a lower part of their nature. When the human being is at his best, above his best animality, he reflects something which is not there when he lives in a state of bestiality.
Bestiality.
What does mean this bestiality?
Bestiality from the beast, like a beast.
Okay, okay. If one tried to change one,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, read, fine.
Should I read? Okay.
Anything to discuss here in this para? Okay, then we can go ahead. Yes, continue.
If one tried to change one's form out of egoism or that famous thing, vanity, naturally, one would not succeed. For it is something deeper which has the power to act. But if one could refrain from having at all times bad will, wicked thoughts, one would seek a kind of harmony being to express itself gradually in the forms and features, for it is a fact that the body expresses the inner state. Can you explain this part? A body expresses the inner state. मतलब it uh, it it shows one's behavior or
One's inner atmosphere, your If your thoughts are wicked and nasty and bad, if your emotions are in turmoil, the body reflects that. So when a person is at peace and is full, I mean, the perfect example, of course, are little children, that we are so attracted to them because there is purity, there is innocence in the child, and that reflects. So the beauty is not the way we speak of beauty, obviously. It is this inner state which is getting reflected through the skin, through the face, through the body itself.
Should I read?
Yes, you can carry on.
Mm. But you forgot, but you forget one thing. If you have in the whole day 5 or 6 hours of higher consciousness, you feel that it is already much, and the rest of the time you live more or less like a little animal. You let yourself go. You are driven by circumstances, and you forget completely to approach the thing which is above, which can prevent you from descending into the lower region of your nature. Um, what does this mean? Means higher circumstance or reason. Matlab, when I read something good, mother's book and in higher thing, that we are in means
Not
that time.
necessary. Not necessary. You can be watching a movie and be in a higher consciousness, and you
Okay.
can be reading the mother's book and be in a lower consciousness. It
Then-
is don't equate it with necessarily the activity. Yes, uh,
Okay.
if you have a slight opening and you read Sri Aurobindo's or mother's books or any book which has the power to elevate you, if you are at that time receptive and open, that consciousness will elevate you, but it is not necessary. If your mind is still full with, you are feeling upset over something, or you are wanting to take revenge, or you are feeling while reading, oh, look, what a wonderful thing I'm doing, I'm reading mother's book, then your consciousness is not in a higher state. So don't equate it with that. If I meditate, I'm in higher state. If I spend money, I'm in a lower state. Okay.
No,
First of all,
no, no, no.
that you have to keep aside. So
No, no, no. That
whatever,
I'm not want to saying that because I think higher consciousness means they said now 5 or 6 hours of we are in higher consciousness. That's I'm asking. The
if she, no, she's not saying you are. She's saying if you have in the
हाँ
whole day.
अच्छा okay
Personally, if I look at myself, 5 or 6 is too much. I think maybe
okay
I'm in a higher consciousness for 30 minutes max, if at
okay
all. Like today,
okay
when I was driving to the center, I was doing something inwardly and I thought I will keep this state throughout the day. When I was driving back, I remembered I'd totally forgotten it. And only when driving back, I remembered that I had thought, and throughout the drive, I kept it while going in the morning. But once I got busy with the work, I totally forgot. So it depends on everybody. But she's saying, she's giving an example. She's saying, yes, the body reflects what you are inwardly. But if you think that just by spending a few hours being in higher consciousness, your body will start reflecting that, and the rest of the time you are in a totally ordinary or even in a low consciousness, that is not going to work. See, it's the same principle that I diet, I eat my lunch very consciously, I take less calories and all, and then in the evening I binge and dinner and I say, "Arey, my weight didn't come down next day." You understand? So it is the same at the spiritual level, that if I just do a bit of puja part or whatever I do, and rest of the time I'm acting from all my normal impulses, there is not any progress. That's why Sri Aurobindo and Mother, although for some people meditation and puja and all that is very important and it helps them grow, but they have not given exclusive importance to meditation, and they've given exclusive importance rather to work, Because when you work with others, everything in your nature is confronted. And that is what makes you progress if you take it like a sadhana, that is, not necessarily automatically. Nothing happens automatically. Okay. Prerna, you want to read uh, till here, this part?
Yeah. Okay. You could get much more from your body if you only took the trouble. You must not despise it nor scold it too much, for it is not the culprit. If you follow a suitable method to train and educate your body, you will have infinitely greater output than you have now. It is quite recently that men have begun to speak of physical culture as an important thing. If you go back 100 years, it was a privilege of those who had nothing else to do. 100 years ago, it was a luxury. When someone said, I don't want to send my child to school, he must earn his living. There were many who answered, no, pardon me, you make a serious mistake. If you do not prepare your child for his adult life, he will be incapable of doing what he should do. People said this about the mind, but it was not said about the body. So many children lived in more or less good conditions with the body, which is indeed a difficulty, but it is used to be said that will get corrected, that will be all right. With training and patience, you can acquire a body with which you can get along in a life. Nowadays, people recognize the value of healthy and balanced life, and I have said that this harmony will be progressive.
Okay, you can stop here. Yeah, this was written 75 years ago or so, and we can see how much progress has been there since then. These days, almost even in India, almost everybody is kind of into some form of physical culture, uh, some attempt. This has come into the collective consciousness now.
But Didi, I think also a lot of the previous paragraphs that
Hmm.
when the mind, the body is becoming a mind to the slave and to the vital in terms of so many more people are obese, so many more people are unhealthy because of the eating habits and lifestyle. So body is suffering that way.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why it is anything you do, any effort you make for one part of your being, if it is done only for a very short time and rest of the time, not only that you do not abuse it, whether it's your mind, your body, your vital, but you like just maintain at least that much effort. Even if you don't make the effort, you don't go downhill. That is rare. We generally feel that there's a very beautiful line in Savitri. I'm not remembering it. It is something about, that you make an effort and then you feel as if you've earned a rest, and it is okay to fall. It is okay to fall because you've made such an effort to pause and rest. But actually, there is no rest. It is, one has to just go on and on and on. And that's the God's Labor poem, fantastic poem by Sri Aurobindo, which captures it so well.
Hmm.
Okay, the last bit, I'll read it. So she says, she's quoting from herself and saying, this harmony will be progressive. So the harmony that will be established in the physical being. For the truth of the being is never static. It is a continual unfolding of a growing, a more and more global and comprehensive perfection. As soon as the body learns to follow the movement of progressive harmony, it will be possible for it through a continuous process of transformation to escape the necessity of disintegration and destruction. Thus, the irrevocable law of death will have no reason for existing anymore. These four attributes of the truth will spontaneously express themselves in our being. The psychic will be the vehicle of true and pure love, the mind that of infallible knowledge, the vital will manifest an invincible power and strength, and the body will be the expression of a perfect beauty and a perfect harmony. This is a thing very little known among mystics and religious people. Very little known among mystics and religious people. In each part of the being, the divine manifests himself differently. In the higher parts, he manifests as power, love, etc. But in the physical, he manifests as harmony and beauty. Hence, the problem of the expression of physical beauty is a spiritual problem. You see, one reason also why Sri Aurobindo and Mother emphasize so much on this is because till their coming, all all kinds of spiritual movements, religious movements have made a very sharp divide between matter and spirit. So there are so many, like earlier she said, don't despise the body, don't scold it, it is not the culprit. There are religions which torture the body, and these are spiritual practices according to them, because they feel flesh is the sinner. The desires of the flesh, carnal desires, sexual desires, desire for food, and all those kind of things. So they torture the body, and it is considered a spiritual practice. So that's why the mother says that the mystics and religious people know it very little, this truth, that the divine is also in the body. The divine manifests itself differently in each part, is also in the mind, is also in the vital. In every part, the divine is. So every part has to be cultivated and manifested. So because there was this divide between, and it still exists, it's not gone. That's why it's the integral yoga, because everything has to be together. And that's why you will find in their writings again and again this emphasis, because they're trying to break this mindset. Yeah, Ila.
So the question I have is, it says over here that in the physical he manifests as harmony and beauty. Hence the problem of the expression of physical beauty is a spiritual problem. Now I can understand that for the first part, like say for example, if she had said, but in the physical he manifests harmony, okay, and then said, hence the problem of expression of physical beauty is a spiritual problem, because harmony is something that you require to achieve through a certain degree of spirituality. I mean, other things have to be in harmony for it to be expressed in the body. So I get that. But when she says in the physical he manifests as beauty, then why is that a spiritual problem? Is that a physical problem?
No, no. Basically, she's saying when you work on the body, anything, and you try to cultivate the body, that is also you are engaged in spirituality. So it is not that you are only engaged in, like when you cultivate the mind, people say, oh, they are an intellectual and all. But if they are doing it with this attitude and for this purpose and working on, deeper things in the mind, not just stuffing it with information, then actually that is, they are involved in spirituality. So that is the schism we make, that only when you do these activities, they are spiritual. But even if you are eating consciously, you are working on your diet, you are working on anything, your endurance, you are actually engaged in a spiritual practice. So everything is spiritual if you do it with this. So in that sense, she says it is a spiritual problem. And anybody wanting to practice spirituality cannot do away with say, "Ki, I will work only on my inner consciousness, and body is, that is, I'm getting too material, or I'm getting too outwardized, or that kind of a thing." In that sense, because also she has this very powerful sentence which seems like, oh my God, that is not achievable. She says that the law of death will disappear. So that is a spiritual thing, na? But it is through the body that it will disappear. Because still the body, and some of you know that that is the only work the mother, well, only is stupid of me to say that, but it is to emphasize that the mother was doing in the last maybe 12 years or something of her life. When she shifted in 1960s, she shifted from her first floor room to the second floor room because she wanted to. This was after Sri Aurobindo's passing. 50, he passed away in mid 60s. She started exclusively concentrating on working on the cells, each cell of the body, to change the consciousness so that it forgets to die, that the body forgets to die. Because she said its death is a bad habit, and that has to be forgotten. Yeah. So she was,
But
sorry?
but they both died. So that means they
Yeah,
didn't
they
reach the
both
saga.
passed away. Yes, because unless matter gets divinized, death cannot be conquered. But that is what they are working on still, conquering death, and that is what Savitri, the whole saga of Savitri, and that epic poem is about. That where is the problem? And finally, that's what Sri Aurobindo said: the battle has to be fought in the subconscious and in the physical. The mind and vital, they can. That is easier, but all of us, if there's a psychological pain, we can uh, distract ourselves. But when you have a toothache, it's very difficult to distract yourself, no? So the body is the last chrysalis or last battle which has to be won for the suprament, and that's why the supramental descent and all those things. So, but that's what the work mother was doing. Of that, the cells have to learn to consciously chant each cell Om Namo Bhagavate. That was her mantra, and that each cell. You can read the Mind of Cells book by Satprem if you are interested. The Mind of the Cells, in which this whole journey has been described of the mother, because he was with her in the last few years. So this was the last commentary on the Science of Living chapter, these 4 or 5 talks. And if we see just quickly, if I open, you know, so it's a small chapter, but it has taken so much time for us. And if we just eyeball the chapter, so the importance of the aim and importance of being conscious and what it means to be conscious. That was the first talk, almost the first talk we read, that what it is to be conscious of yourself. What does it really mean? And then she goes into the external instrumental part, and that she has explained at the level of the mind, what has to be done, at the level of the vital, what has to be done, and what are the challenges. And then also the body. Discipline. Yeah. So this is what we have ended with. Any reflections, questions? Today we don't take up a new chapter. We will end here only, and next time we will read the next chapter.
Well, I guess, maybe I don't know, maybe a sort of summary of, she said many things that we should do, she's given us many sort of tips and things to and little bits of method, why she explained why you need to do it, then this is the method, why you need to do it, and this is the method. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we could have a sort of summary of some of the key points.
Yeah,
Not,
sure. Go ahead, make it.
yeah, I think I might do that because I can't remember so much of, all of what we've
Yeah. No,
discussed.
it will be nice. It will
Yeah,
be nice.
it doesn't stay in my head. It stays while we're discussing it. And then once we discuss it, it's all gone, so I don't have any.
So all the links are there on
Yeah,
Moodle that
yeah,
of the talks. And anyway, if you go into this Incarnate Word site,
yeah.
incarnateword.in, this is volume 4 of the Mother's collected works. The actual chapter is in volume 12, The Science of Living. The talks are in volume 4, and these talks are in, I think, 13 January is the first talk, 13 to 25th January. These are 4-5 talks, 1951.
Wow. Okay.
Anything else?
What are we going to
Okay.
read next, Siddhi? Which chapter?
If we go in a sequence, we will read, I think the next chapter is education, which is more written for the
Okay.
parents. And I don't know if there are any commentaries. Pooja, you can find out if there are any commentaries on it. If there are, then let me know on the next chapter, education. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is the next.
the next chapter is education, but I don't know. This book has two more commentaries on the science of living.
Which we haven't read.
Yeah, we've read till 4. The 5th one is dated. That's what I was trying to read. It is linked to this because it says this on the science of living. On the science of living, 16
Okay.
December 53, and
16 December 53.
and
Just a minute. 16 December, I'm opening it. 16 December. Is it the fivefold education book you have got?
no, I've got foundations of education.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it is there. You are right.
And there's one
16
more
December 1953.
23rd December 53 also.
23rd. So two, okay, two more. They are consecutive. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we can take that up next time. I mean, now we've got 5 minutes left or 7. I think it's no point starting on that. There are two, thanks, Pooja. There are two more commentaries, so we can read those next time. Okay,
Yeah. ठीक है.
fine. Let's end here then.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Okay.